Nathan, your wife also's got endometriosis, right?
At the beginning, I kind of like taking care of her when we were just married, before the baby. But that I think has made it a little heavier. Not only taking care of my wife with this disease, but also my child.
Thank you all so much for being here to talk about a subject that I feel is invisible, especially as it relates to being a man in America, and that is caregiving. Everybody at this table has a unique touch point to caregiving, being that you've either been a caregiver or you have received care. I'm interested in learning from all of you because this is a new topic for me because I don't have a personal experience outside of seeing some of my family members have caregivers. So
thanks for having us, man.
It's gonna be great.
Definitely.
how you doing, man? You good?
I'm good. I mean, we could have conversations and dinner without 6 cameras.
So how did your unique situation affect, do you think, your parents and the way that they took care of you?
Well, I have cerebral palsy, which is a condition that I got pretty close to birth. The way my mom cared for me, she did a lot of the standard caregiving stuff, helping me get dressed, helping me go to the bathroom, all of that sort of stuff that took me much longer to learn how to do those things independently. And my dad was the one who was more of like, let's outfit your chair with this cool thing and let me saw your braces so that it's more comfortable for your feet and that sort of stuff. So they did sort of fill in those stereotypical gender roles.
Your dad was like,
in that
pimp
way.
your ride.
Yeah.
Robert, how do men and women approach caregiving differently? Because that's a really, that's how I would see it as well, right? It's like, let me take care of your wheelchair. Mom can do everything else.
Right.
Yeah. I think the research shows that men are less comfortable with personal care kind of activities, right? They're less comfortable with bathing, with dressing, with the kinds of responsibilities that, we assume women will take care of. It means that I think we're socialized that way. I think society tells us that there are roles for women and there are roles for men. And so men become family caregivers out of necessity. Emergency hits, crisis hits, an accident happens, and they take on the role. But the challenge is we may not have been socialized in such a way where we learned the skills to be good caregivers. And the person who needs the care suffers from that.
I grew up really fast, I can tell you that, because my daughter got diagnosed when I was 25. Had no idea what the healthcare system was like. I just knew that it's the caretaker's job to make sure that person is safe, that they have access to medicine. It was a lot of learning that I did during that process of being a caretaker for her.
Your TED Talk that I love, the work that makes all the other work possible, right?
Yes.
It's interesting. If I were to zoom out, I could see that, oh, wow, all of these people that are going out in the world doing these amazing things, there's always an element of caregiving that has to happen.
Absolutely.
But it's invisible.
I mean, I think that what's amazing is just the number of men who are touching this experience and engaged in caregiving who don't even see themselves as caregivers. We've undervalued the role and made it so invisible that the people who are doing it, including men, don't identify with it. Millennials are more involved in raising their children than any other generation of men in history, and not that many are talking about what it means to be a caregiver. And boomer men are so involved in elder care for their parents. And 40% of all family caregivers are men. Men who are caring for their parents, their grandparents, or loved ones with disabilities. Or also spouses caring for their wives or their partners who are ill. And I think traditional notions of masculinity make it hard for men to ask for help, right?
Can I ask you a little bit of a personal question, though?
Sure.
Because your wife also's got endometriosis, right?
Yes.
So I'm curious, you're both caring for a child and then oftentimes finding yourself caring for a wife at the same time, right?
And for those who don't know, basically endometriosis is a disease where tissue that's supposed to be inside the uterus starts growing outside the uterus. And just ruins you inside and is strongly correlated with ovarian cancer. Her grandmother died from ovarian cancer and breast cancer. Her mother had endometriosis, now she does. There's a chance that not only would I be taking care of my wife with this disease, but also my child. And that, I think, has made it a little heavier, too. I still feel, I wouldn't say a sense of increased masculinity when I'm taking care of her, especially since now it's happened so many times. It is rote at this point. It is just a fact of life, and it is what it is.
Was it part of that, like, oh, I can do this, like I can take care of you, like I can handle your stuff?
Yeah, at the beginning, I kind of like taking care of her when we were just married, before the baby happened. But being in the trenches with her during that can be very overwhelming, especially when there's a baby involved, because it causes horrific pain at any time. And it's really hard to see. It's harder for her, so it feels weird having this happen.
No, man.
But it's really rough, and there's no cure. You can have surgery, you can do certain things for it, but there's really nothing to be done. And that was something I actually wasn't really aware of until we got married, and because she actually didn't know. For a long time, she just knew something was wrong. And
so how are you holding up? Do you have like guy friends that you can actually share and talk to about this? Because I'm looking at you as a new brother, and it's right here, which means that it's like it's
percolating.
It's percolating. Do you like unload on anybody, or because you can't unload on your wife, right?
I guess I don't really have peers in that sense, and that is a struggle.
All right, you got one now.
Yeah.
I bet you got a few
Appreciate
more here
that.
too.
That means a lot.
What about the male caregivers that maybe are not even thinking about themselves as caregivers if they're watching this? What do you say to them? What can they do?
I think share their story. Courage is this amazing thing. It's contagious. And so if somebody shares their story, sometimes it's hard, I know, because these stories are so intimate and personal, but that's how the culture change happens.
When your child is battling cancer, there's not much you can do. So when there were times where, I was in Cincinnati and my daughter was getting treated in Philadelphia, I would have to FaceTime her, watching her hair fall out, tubes hooked up to her.
Oh, God.
As soon as we hang up the phone, I would just break down and cry.